The film opens like a real crime documentary. On-screen text explains that in July 2017, a man named Gary Hinge disappeared while hiking alone in the Great Basin Desert of Nevada. Despite extensive searches, the case remains unsolved. What follows is a reconstruction of events based on police records, interviews, and recovered video footage. This is the first sign that something is wrong comes from Simon, Gary's roommate. Gary was supposed to return home, but after 2 full days, there is still no sign of him. Simon contacts Gary's sister, Beverly Hinge, to explain that Gary never came back. The moment she hears this, Beverly feels something is seriously wrong. Gary would never abandon his dog, Tuka, especially not for days without notice. The investigation is documented by journalist Gal Roberts, who calmly helps piece the story together. So who was Gary Hinge? Friends and family describe Gary as reliable, intelligent, and deeply connected to nature. He loved the outdoors and solitude. Though friendly, Gary was also extremely private and introverted, often keeping his personal life hidden even from those closest to him. Gary was living his ideal life. He worked for a startup called Map Nevada, mapping remote terrain for hunters, including wildlife movement, weather patterns, and dangerous environments. It was isolated, demanding work, but it suited him perfectly. Gary loved hiking, exploration, and long solo expeditions. He also had a fascination with trains, often exploring remote rail lines. With no sign of Gary after 2 days, Simon, who has a flight to catch, asks Beverly to come to Ruth, Nevada to collect Tuka. Beverly drives there and tries calling Gary again and again. Every call goes straight to voicemail. Standing in the silence of Gary's space, she becomes certain the matter is not a simple delay. She contacts the police. The documentary then explores the complicated past between Gary and Beverly. Beverly admits their relationship was once deeply strained. Years earlier, she blamed Gary for the death of their parents. The family had gone on a night fishing trip, something they loved. A lantern was hung as a guide so they could return safely to camp. At some point, Gary wandered off to hunt frogs and explore, unknowingly moving the lantern. Their parents followed the light, believing it would guide them back, but instead, they were led astray, struck rocks in the darkness, and never returned. She explains that she no longer holds resentment, but the guilt never fully leaves Gary. As Gary's disappearance becomes public, the town reacts. Ruth is small and people do not simply vanish there. Volunteers begin searching, convinced Gary must still be out there. Days later, the search takes a shocking turn. Gary's truck is discovered 55 miles outside of town, abandoned in the open high desert. Following this discovery, Beverly hires a private investigator named William. The search effort intensifies. More volunteers join, and drones are deployed to scan the terrain. Almost immediately, things stop making sense. Beverly points out that Gary loved lush forests and mountainous areas, not the barren high desert where the truck was found. Police later confirm something even stranger. Evidence suggests Gary did not drive the vehicle there himself. Around the vehicle, investigators find bare human footprints. With no explanation for how or why the truck was left there, fear begins to grow. During his investigation, William uncovers that Gary had been privately messaging someone on Facebook Messenger. Their conversation suggests they were more than friends. When confronted, the person panics, terrified of being outed in a small conservative community. This reveals that Gary was gay, something he had kept entirely private. After verifying the individual's alibi, William rules them out as a suspect. Eventually, with no new leads, the official search is called off. The case goes cold. Then something unexpected happens. People begin calling investigators, claiming they followed Gary online. It is revealed that Gary ran a survivalist blog completely unknown to his family and friends.
It's me again. A lot of people have been following the blog and news.
Journalist Gal Roberts investigates further as the blog begins gaining media attention. Beverly rushes to Gary's home to access it and makes a disturbing discovery. Gary had over 50,000 followers. The blog appears normal at first, focused on survival skills and outdoor knowledge, but one post stands out. The comments are ominous. People write things like, "I bet he found it," and "something bad happened." William describes this post as deeply unsettling. Gary writes about encountering something during his final expedition, something that clearly frightened him. Gal watches Gary's final video post. 3 days into his hike, Gary describes noticing the smell of smoke in an isolated area. Curious, he follows it and discovers a makeshift cabin hidden deep in the desert. The longer he watches it, the more uneasy he feels. His instincts tell him to leave immediately. That night, Gary sleeps with his shoes on. When he wakes, he finds bare footprints circling his camp. Later, while hiking back, he becomes convinced someone is following him. After posting the video, Gary's followers turned against him, calling him a liar and a loser and accusing him of making things up for attention. They demanded that he go back and prove it. In his final video, Gary tells his followers that he is returning, though he clearly looks frightened. After that, Gary disappears. The mystery shifts. This is no longer just a missing person case. Question spiral. Who lived in the cabin? Why were they there? When the radio broadcast about his blogs, conspiracy theories exploded, including aliens, cults, witches, and Area 51. No one knows the truth. Then comes the most horrifying discovery. The documentary cuts to a news report confirming that Gary's backpack was discovered by campers in White Pine County. When they wake up in the morning, they find the bag intentionally placed at their campsite by someone. What they discover inside is shocking. A severed hand clutching a video camera. Suddenly, everyone wants to know what is on the camera. The video is partially released to the public in hopes of turning up new leads. At first, the footage begins like any of Gary's other recordings, calm and routine, with no indication of what is about to happen. In the video, Gary explains that he can distinctly smell smoke, though it is very faint. This is his final night, and in an attempt to remain undetected, he ventures out into total darkness, relying entirely on his infrared camcorder. He follows the markers he placed earlier, carefully navigating through the darkness. Then he hears footsteps. A moment later, a strange, repetitive, almost witch-like call echoes through the silence, sending a chill down his spine. As he moves closer to the cabin, the sound grows louder and more deliberate. Suddenly, a deformed figure appears in the camera's night vision. Gary films in silence, barely breathing. Without warning, the figure charges straight at him. The camera jolts and cuts. Gunshots ring out. The footage resumes with Gary showing his injured leg as he hides behind a tree, still recording. In the darkness, he captures multiple figures, one carrying a torch, another wielding a machete. Slowly searching the area for Gary, the figure moves out of his view. Gary tries to follow it, and suddenly it attacks him. The footage ends. Gal Roberts closes the film with a chilling concern that this footage will inspire more thrill-seekers and influencers to hunt for the cabin, placing themselves in the same danger Gary faced. And that's how this story ends. Or does it? If you enjoyed this recap, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until then, stay out of the darkness.